Hello and welcome to Play Pause Turn. In this podcast, we discuss all things to do with TV, films, games and literature. We give our thoughts on the media we've been enjoying, old or new, and comment on anything topical. Now, our hosts today are myself, Alex, Mark and Bobby. And we're going to start off... Oh, by the way, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year,
Happy New
everyone.
Year.
Hi, guys.
Happy New Year. We're gonna do the usual thing, the intro question. It's a new year, so we haven't changed anything about the podcast. So our question for this one, we're going to be looking at two films, Spider-Man No Way Home and The Matrix Resurrections. But our question is to do with the Matrix film. So if you were a program resurrected in the new Matrix film, what would be your character name and what would your purpose be? And we'll do this alphabetically. So, Alex, what would you be, or who would you be?
Okay, so I've got one because they introduced some new programs in the Matrix, which is why we put this in as our question. I would be the nitpicker. I would be a positive mob, so I would probably be on the side of Neo and Trinity and the rebels. But I would probably just be there to support, but also nitpick. So whenever they come up with a plan, I'd be like, well, have you got that right? Shouldn't we go for a bit more of an obvious route? Or, maybe we should try and go round quietly instead of just going in and blowing everything up. I just feel like I wouldn't like bring people down, but I feel like it's the kind of person that you would end up going, oh, Alex, and then just go and do your firing anyway. So that was what came to mind.
Okay, so a cautious program.
Yeah.
Sorry, a very careful algorithm. Okay, Bobby, how about you? What would you be? What sort of program would you be?
I would be a program called Agent iOS, a derivative of a program in your so-called reality that was known as iOS. And my sole purpose would be to update myself every single year in a pointless manner that only serves to confuse people like Mark.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
That's
So
the first dig of the
baddie,
year.
basically.
Get it in early. That's good, mate. Well done.
Oh, don't. These are going to keep coming, mate. Get ready.
You'd be jumping off balconies in slow motion with a very long sword, basically. wouldn't you?
Basically, that's it.
Shouting, update me! Okay. How about you, Mark? What would you be?
No one's going to date Bob. Anyway, so we'll carry on. So you sort of framed me here because I'm a bit late to getting organised. So I think I would be Napster because I remember music being very good and easy to share in the early sort of 2000s, and music was really good at that time. And it seems that since Napster went down, modern music has gone down. So I think I will be there as like to cheer like everyone up. And it's always cool when you tell people about this new band or this new song that you've heard and they've not heard it as well, and that sort of thing as well. So like I think everything since Napster has been quite crap, with a few except. Oh, I can't swear. Sorry, excuse me. I'll delay.
Crap's fine. Don't worry.
I think
If it's fine for the BBC, it's fine for you, Mark.
That one's fine.
Sorry, I think modern music has been on the decline since Napster went down. So I think I'll be like the new band and like cheering people up after they've fought like Agent Smith and all that as well. So I'll be Napster.
Do you think that you would be the one that does the playlist for their fight scenes then?
Absolutely, yes,
okay.
Yes. That's actually a lot better than anything that I just said as well. That's great. Just edit what I said, like after like the music thing, and then put Alex in there as well.
No, but you could just go, "Oh, I've got a great song for you," and then just put something on from the 90s.
Yeah.
I think the only issue would be, Mark, of course, is when Napster's around, the internet speeds are quite slow. So your frame rate would be about 15 frames per second, and you'd be very slow and choppy.
Yeah, but I have faith in Alex, and I can. Well, not. Obviously not Bobby, but I've got faith in Alex, like in you, John. I'm sure you'd help the bandwidth and get it increased as well. I'm sure.
To be honest, faint and choppy and slow is no different to how he is in real life. So.
And they are the They are the worst dwarfs in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs as well. Them three.
Slow and choppy. That sounds like one of those alternative versions of Snow White, actually.
Yeah. I was watching.
I was trying.
Yeah.
I was having a think about what I could be. I'm obviously in my spare time I'm a teacher, and the problem with the Matrix is there are no teachers because you can just download something to learn it, can't you?
So you would be a mini disc.
Well, so I'm scotching the whole teaching idea because they just download programs and then they know kung fu. But what part of my job, because I teach computing, I get a lot of staff in my school asking me to fix their computers for them, which is not really my job. I'm not a technician.
But because you're
I
the
think
IT teacher.
Yeah, he'll know how to fix it because he's IT, but I teach rather than fix. But so I think I would be the resurrected program. I would be Mr. Clippy from Windows 98.
Brilliant.
So if someone needs a problem solved, I'd turn up annoyingly over their faces or in the way when they were least expecting it, and be really chirpy, even if like people are being shot at, and say, "Here, I can help you with that. Here's an AK-47." So I'd be Mr. Clippy.
And Mr. Clippy sounds like someone who shouldn't be anywhere near kids as well, doesn't it? A little bit.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Hello,
okay. Now,
Mr. Clippy.
I don't
Sorry.
think I think that's the second time Mr. Clippy's been mentioned on this podcast, which is not bad for a 1990s, help feature that nobody wanted.
Yeah.
I quite liked him, but anyway.
I think there was a rumour he was coming back to Windows 11 as well.
Clippy is retro cool now.
Yeah,
There's
hashtag bring back
ugly
Clip.
sweaters of him and everything.
I might have to get a Dell XPS or some other Windows machine. If they bring Clippy back, then that's it. I'm in Microsoft.
That'll be the thing that turns you from Apple, will it? Okay. Now, in a change of normal routine, we're going to change our host. So I'm going to have a bit of take a back seat and relax a bit here, because we're going to give the hosting jobs here to the people I think with the most passion. Or the most vitriol, I don't know which, for the films that we're reviewing today, which is Spider-Man, No Way Home, and Matrix Resurrections.
Here we go.
So here we go. So let's see how this goes. So I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to host our discussion on Spider-Man, No Way Home. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, John, and thanks for allowing me to be in charge of this section. We talk about one of the greatest films ever made, Spider-Man, No Way Home, as well. Right. Yeah, spoiler.
Were you waiting for the retort there?
No. Well, it's a shame that we can't see video because Bobby's eyes sort of rolled there as well. So,
do we need to mention that we are probably going to jump straight into spoilers?
Yeah, I don't think there's
very excited.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth not talking about spoilers because I think it's impossible and not talk about it without spoilers. So I think we'll just crack on, but everyone can do what they want to do as well. So
that's fine.
Before we get into it, we'll just see. So how did everyone enjoy themselves? I know that Bobby is really, really keen to talk about this film. So we'll start with Alex. So Alex, what did you think about Spider-Man No Way Home?
Touche.
I really enjoyed it. It was a really good film, but I had issues and I wondered whether they were just me or not. And by the end of it,
cool.
By the end of it, I realised it was probably me. But it was really good and a really good way of visualising the double life of Peter Parker. So I really enjoyed where they took it. I think if you're a Spider-Man fan, then you're going to love it. So,
Mr. Evans.
I really enjoyed it. It was of the three. I definitely think the best of the three. Having heard an interview from the writers of the film, the narrative that goes from the first Spider-Man film with Tom Holland all the way through, they were setting this up. They knew what they were doing. But I really enjoyed it. And I'm a bit with Alex. I kind of sat in the first 15, 20 minutes thinking, oh, here we go. I enjoy it. But I'm just going to cruise through it and enjoy it. By the end, I think I was more emotionally affected by this Spider-Man film than by a lot of Marvel films. And I saw it at the cinema, which always helps. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. I suppose we'll have to let him have an opinion, I guess. So, Bobby, how did you feel about the film?
You have to let me have a voice, Mark. It's all about diversity nowadays.
Everyone's got an opinion as well. Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. So what are we talking about? Spider-Man. Oh yeah.
We're talking about if you enjoyed the film or not, Bobby.
I
Moving on,
did.
Alex.
I did. So I saw it, as you guys know, actually, because I was messaging you. So I'd had a particularly sort of bad day and wasn't feeling too great. So I just, on a whim, went to see it at the Odeon in Tottenham Court Road, which is just down the road from my workroom. It was an interesting showing at 4:15 in the afternoon because it was packed full of undesirables and, yobby teenagers and tourists and things like that. And I got into an altercation with two of them quite early on because they, people that could wander in and they don't have tickets and they're just basically trying to plonk themselves wherever. I won't retell the whole story because we are a clean podcast. But then the next day I saw it in IMAX I loved it both times. And the second viewing, I was able to kind of just enjoy it a little bit more because I already knew what was going to happen and just soak it in a bit more. But spoiler alert, I absolutely loved it. It was brilliant.
I'll just put my 2 pennies worth in as well. Obviously, as I said in the intro, I absolutely loved it. Absolutely fantastic. As a Marvel / Spider-Man fan, as Alex said, it's perfect if you're a fan of it as well. But what I liked about the film actually is, we'll get into certain bits, all right? What I liked about it is that it actually did quite a lot of different things in one film. So, I mean, I'm going to go spoilers, that's all right, because I just don't think it's possible to talk about it really with spoilers. So, a big spoiler, so Tobey Maguire and Andrew McGarfield are both in this, in the multiverse as well. And it would have been really easy to have had them in at the end, a couple of quips, and then in the end fight, and then that's it. But they were more integral to the plot in the second half of the film. And what the film, I think, does very well and very cleverly is it actually acts as a end of each of those Spider-Mans are like trilogies and stories. So it reboots them as well. So Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland are all going to come back in the future. But if they didn't, I felt it was a really good, satisfying conclusion for all three of them, while also opening up new possibilities if you did want to do sort of future films with them as well. So I liked about that it wasn't just fan service, and that it did different things. It closed off stories and also created new ones. And also as well, so the first two films, I know that he died like Lucky Brackets died in Infinity War and then comes back. But this is the first film out of the trilogy where he's really got repercussions, wherein it's not, he's had a lot of fun being Spider-Man. He's had the Stark tech, and he's had all that stuff, and it's been quite easy for him in a way of being Spider-Man as well. But this one's the one with the real repercussions. This felt more of a grown-up Spider-Man film that makes sense as well. And I actually thought that some of the emotional stuff was really good. We'll get into plot and spoilers and that sort of thing into the plot, but this is actually, like, I think Tom Holland's really great in this film. I think his performance is excellent, as a lot of other actors are. But there's a real emotional part to this as well. Yes, there's fights and there's action and stuff, but there's actually real repercussions to it, and there's a lot of heart in it as well. And that's what I really enjoyed about it. It worked for me in several different ways, and that's what I really liked about it. I'm not even talking about Doctor Strange yet, but there we go. But that's why I loved it. So I will carry on with that as well. So we'll just talk about sort of how it started as well. So it starts sort of straight after the events of Spider-Man Far From Home. So everyone works out that, everyone finds out via J. Jameson that Peter is Spider-Man. Alex, like the first half of the film with sort of like that reveal coming in and all the repercussions of that, and then with Strange, what did you sort of think about like the first half of the film?
Yeah, so this is the bit that I found challenging, and I think this was partly, I don't think I was quite in the right frame of mind for it. I just the run up to Christmas is always really busy and really hectic. So I just caught a showing, and I think I was just like, I wasn't really ready for it. So I was like, all right, tell me what you need to. And then the first act is a bit of exposition and set up for the rest of the film. And arguably this was the bit that felt a bit contrived. So what was good was that it was really good that they showed the consequences of his identity being shared and the consequences from that for extending to his friends and his family as well. So I think that was really, really powerful. The fact that none of them got into Harvard or was really, really good, because it just kind of reinforced that actually there was a consequence to what they were doing. But then the problem is, on the other side, I was thinking, but this is part of the MCU now, and like superheroes are normal now. And although there's a big deal about them, it's like they went like peak meme about it. Whereas whenever you sort of mention about Iron Man and stuff like that, it just felt like there was interest and stuff, but it didn't make their lives impossible. Whereas this felt really kind of overwhelming. Now, on the plus side, that made it really compelling. By the time we got through that, I was like, yeah, I can't see any way out of this. But it did feel a little bit overblown at the start, and that did put me off a little bit.
I think the reaction to his reveal, though, is less about him, oh, wow, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and more about the fact that one of the established superheroes that saved the world is also a murderer.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because he's framed for Mysterio's death, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I think...
And that's why.
that's true. Yeah. I think the problem with
I think that's what...
Yeah, I think that's why it is, because he gets framed, because everyone thinks Mysterio is a big hero, don't they, as well? So, and then Jameson sort of says that he is, and then he reveals that Spider-Man killed him, which is also wrong.
I think,
I think it's kind of...
I think you're right, but I think that's the problem, is that was... I felt much more like we know this, because obviously I'm coming from the audience's point of view, so the audience knows that this was a fake, and he's been framed. And the thing is, it felt like there was no one sort of fighting that cause. It was like, basically, instead of saying no, this is what happened, here's what happened, it felt like it was unbalanced. And I think that was the bit where I was just like, oh, come on, it wouldn't be quite like that. It's not like he invented a vaccine or something. Come on, let's be realistic. But
we all know, don't we? With any person online or in the world nowadays, there's always going to be a 50-50 split between people who support the evil scumbag and people who don't like the evil scumbag.
Yeah, it felt like
rather than everyone.
It felt like it was only his friends and family that were supporting him, and everyone else was against him. And maybe that was what was needed for the film, and it did actually, like, by the time we got into it, it was fine. But I think I was just worn down by the real life that I have listening and watching some of that stuff. So I think I was probably just like, I don't want that in my movie necessarily. I do want to know the consequences, which is why them not getting into university, I was like, yeah, I get that. Okay, that makes sense. But it was kind of just, I think it was just something that's overplayed a bit. And then once we get into it, then I was fine. And then I was like, yeah, no, ignore me. I'm all good. So, but that was my initial concern. And I think if you're a fan of Spider-Man, you'll forgive all of that and you won't really pay attention to it. You'll be just going, great, where's the storyline? Where's the thing that we're solving? Where is that? And that takes you to Doctor Strange. And we'll come on to that in a bit.
Yeah. Bob, did you want to say anything sort of about the first half, sort of leading up to Strange, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I need to just gather my thoughts, because I was mesmerised looking at our faces on the screen, because actually me, you and John, we kind of actually look like Spider-Mans, because of the shape of our heads. I'm more Venom because I'm darker. So Obviously the kind of beginning setup to the film was no surprise because we'd seen it all in the trailers, the whole Doctor Strange thing and a spell going wrong. But you know, it was very monkey's paw, isn't it? Sort of the consequences of making a wish and you know not doing it exactly the right way. The funny bit for me was when when Doctor Strange, because this is what we would all do generally, that if we get rejected from something, we will give them a call and try to, you know, argue our case. And, you know, Doctor Strange turns around to him and, you know, he's like, well, you know, I guess if you argued your case and they still didn't want you to get in, then fair enough. And Peter Parker's like, sorry, what? You can do that? And then Strange just kicks him out. But yeah, I mean, look, overall, the film, because you guys have talked a lot about the initial plot, the thing for me going into it is that the thing I was worried about was that it had the potential to be a complete and utter disaster, because suddenly you're bringing in, you know, another 5 or 6 characters, you know, you've got Spider-Man and all the existing cast and so on. It really did have the potential to be an absolute car crash, but it was a real impressive achievement, and it's testament to the screenwriters that they managed to come up with a cohesive script that by and large made sense. And the film, it probably had maybe, I don't know if it's the most emotional beats of any Marvel film, because certainly there are a lot of emotional beats in the Infinity War Endgame doubleheader. But there were moments in this film that tears were rolling down my eyes, like when, spoiler alert, Aunt May dies. I'm not sure if that's more because of the character or because it's Marissa Tomei,
I would say both.
I'd say more it's Marissa Tomei. But I mean, that bit was really, you know, that really choked me up. And then the other bit was when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saves MJ, you know, in a parallel of what happened in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And that just, I'll talk about it again later, but...
Yeah, we'll come back to that, yeah.
Yeah, but I think they did a great job to hold the whole thing together.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it's the best Spider-Man film for me, because they have been rerunning the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield ones on telly, and there's still a strong argument for Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that at the end as a wrap-up.
Yeah, maybe. But it was definitely, it was brilliant. I mean, I'd still give this film like at least a 9.5 out of 10. It was great.
Yeah. John, I've got a few bits to say, but I'll just move to you first. Is there anything else you wanted to add or like comment on what Alex and Bob have said?
I mean, I agree with the others. The beginning of the film was a complete follow-on, wasn't it? Exactly after it happened. I spent the first part of the film, especially when Peter Parker went to see Doctor Strange, waiting for the trailer, and it never happened. Because in the trailer, Benedict Wong's character turns around and says, "You're not going to do this," and then Doctor Strange winks at him, and that never actually happened in the film.
Yes, that's true.
Which threw me a little bit. Like I felt like, am I in the wrong universe when I'm watching this film? So that obviously I think quite a lot of rewriting happened. I understand that there was meant to be more of Venom in the film as well. So yeah, no, I really, you know, I agree with Bobby. I think it must be a massive amount of pressure for the screenwriters to be able to pull this all together and also link it to the other films and the fans' expectations and what happens in the comics. I mean, I just can't imagine having to try and deal with that. And I think, as Bobby said, I think they did a really good job. And we're going to talk about all the extra reveals at the end. But I sat down and watched a few What Ifs this evening as well. And the fact that even they link into these films just shows you how impressively, as you say, cohesive all these films are with each other. I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of a roller coaster narratively. You know, it felt like multiple films in one. But that's not a bad thing.
No. I'll just say a couple of quick things before we move on. Just in regards to what Alex said, I agree to a little extent there as well. So I think that what they were doing is very much what is is happens in the comics with the character, as in he tries to protect everyone that he knows and loves, but it's always like he always gets sort of like kicked in the nuts sort of thing as well. Like he does everything he can to protect them, but still it happens, and he makes a lot of sacrifices for everyone else. So I think that's what they were going with that as well, because that is a constant in the comics and that, of the character, particularly in regards to Peter Parker as well. I might misread it, I might be going too deep, but I also thought when I was watching it, the fact and that they all don't get into MIT, and they're all kind of hung out to dry and that sort of thing. And particularly the bit, there's a great gag with the Flash Thompson character who does his own book about his and Peter's friendship, and it's called Flashpoint, which is obviously a nice little dig at DC's Flashpoint comic, I like that gag. That's a great little Easter egg as well.
See, I didn't get that because I didn't know about that comic.
Yeah,
that's one for the comic fans. Well done.
So
good spot.
So I looked at all these. I just wanted to go and see it again at least twice because I want to get all the little references in. So so Flash calls his book Flashpoint, which is a dig at DC. But also, I might be going back at the wrong tree. But the fact that they get into MIT and the vitriol they get and all that stuff, I was just wondering very, very subtly if the writers were maybe talking about cancel culture and the current sort of culture in our society, because it kind of felt like that to me. Bobby's sort of smiling and shaking his head there.
Only because it did not cross my mind in the slightest. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly where you're coming from, but no, it didn't cross my mind at all. I think this is the very real, when you wait for any result, I remember waiting for GCSE results, and A-level results obviously were arguably a bigger one because those are the ones that get you into university. And there was always this, they played it really well, that he gets his, Aunt May goes through the post and then it's the MIT one. So he grabs it and he goes straight to where his two best friends are in the whole wide world. They're all wanting to get into MIT together because this is the next chapter of their lives and they want to be doing all of that together. Ned and Peter have probably talked about being roommates in dorms for years and years and years. And I think they did all of that really well. And then the disappointment afterwards, they handled really well as well. But yeah, the cancel culture thing didn't really wasn't a speck of dust for me.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit. I kind of can see the point, but I think the challenge is, and I think this is where maybe they needed to flesh it out a bit more thoroughly, because when we think about the quote when Matt Murdock comes in and says, there's still the court of public opinion, and obviously I think that's the bit that we got lots of sound bites, but we didn't get any sort of real gravitas. So there was a legal trouble, a legal court case, but equally we didn't. What would have been really nice would have been, some maybe to do a little snippet of a scene going, should we accept Spider-Man or not? And just kind of just ground it in the application, because I think that bit felt all over the place. But I think Bobby was right in that actually the story was trying to tell us that it's just about three friends going to university. It was just that we were all a bit distracted by some of the other stuff that we were being shown.
I mean, the reason why I brought that up was because I sort of got that reference while watching it, but also, and the reason why I talked about Flash in the book, apart from it being a great pun, is the fact that he does the book. He says, "I'm Spider-Man's best mate," and he gets interviewed, etc. But he gets into MIT, so he gets in, but the other three don't, and that's why I kind of.
I see what you mean, because the reason, because the reasoning in the letter was due to recent events or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Why don't those three get in, but Flash does? That's what I might be reading far too much into it. But I just thought that was an interesting little comment.
Because I'd missed that point, but now I totally get where you're coming from. But I think even at the time, maybe it's just the way I am, that just went completely over my head. I was like, fair enough, because what he did was very much in the public domain, and institutions like that are very much about not bringing their institution into disrepute, because Harvard, MIT, and all of that have got this rich history. And that's, I mean, I only thought about this for like a nanosecond while I was in the theatre, right? But that's kind of how it felt for me.
It's just saying that. Yeah,
I think it's one of those things that you could see it working both ways, couldn't you? It'd be like, what would happen if Prince Harry wanted to come to my university, and then what happens if it was Prince Andrew doing a and then you're like,
chaperoned by Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, all right, I get the point now. All right, that's it. I'm going to close that conversation down. But that was I at that point I was like, okay, no, I understand now. This makes sense.
Yeah, but Matt Murdock showing up though. So interesting one. Sorry, Mark. Can I just ask this question? What were the biggest cheers in your respective audiences? So for me, I'm not going to talk about the idiots that I saw it with the first time round. And yeah, that is opening day, 4:45 p.m, Odeon, Tottenham Court Road. If you're listening to us and you were in there, meet me at the back of 179 Tottenham Court Road. I'm going to have it out with you. But so for me, the Matt Murdock got a reasonable sort of, but I think it was mixed because obviously not everyone has seen the Netflix show. But I was fist pumping. I was so happy to see him for the short time he was in it. And then the next cheer was Andrew Garfield, and that was much bigger. But then when Tobey Maguire appears about 5 or 6 minutes later, the whole cinema just erupted.
I think people
really
were, in my cinema, when they saw Andrew Garfield, they worked out that Toby was coming along.
Yeah.
There was a big cheer for Andrew, and obviously when Toby came along, it was more of a sort of sound, you know.
So I went and saw it at 9:15 in the morning, the first showing that was available locally. I actually booked a half day off work to go and see it. So because I just couldn't,
it's not that long,
dedication.
Mate. Yeah, I just couldn't not see it, and if I'd have been working, I'd be like, look, I'm working, but Spider-Man's on about half an hour down the road. I just couldn't do it, so I put a half day off for it. A little bit embarrassing. So, my cinema was about half full, maybe a little bit less because it's first thing in the morning. There's a lot of diehards in there as well. So when Charlie Cox, who's Matt Murdock, he comes on, I did a big whoop. I went like something like that, or some sort of noise like that. And the Bobby knows sort of the noises that I make.
Was that sorry? Hold on, what was that? Your sex sound you just made? Then?
Not my sex sound. No, there was not my sex sound. No. Bobby knows my sex sound.
He's forgotten what his sex sound is.
It's been a while.
His sex sound is if you put Chris Evans on screen, then he'll make his sex sound.
There you go. See, Bobby was sitting next to me during Endgame, so he knows my sex voice. There you go. So so I did kind of like this. Yeah.
Anyway,
so,
moving swiftly on.
Move swiftly on, please. So I kind of did this whoop or oh wow, sort of noises, and then little snicker, and it's sort of behind me. And these two kids must be
what
about
would happen if what was that program with the old couple and the woman was always moaning away, the British sitcom from the 80s or whatever.
Right.
Good line. Yeah.
So I did a bit of a whoopee when Charlie Cox come on, and then and some people kind of did a noise, but these two guys behind me must be about early 20s at the most, about 19, 20, something like that. Sort of looked at me as calm down, granddad, sort of thing as well. It sort of looked at me and I was, I probably deserved that as well, sort of laughing at me as well, because I think they had seen it as well, and they knew who he was. I did a bit of a whoop, and then I got very excited when Andrew and Toby come on as well. I was like, oh, they're there, a bit like that. So yeah, but everyone did that. Yeah, that wasn't a sex voice. But that wasn't a sex voice either as well. But everyone was did a bit of a whoop and oh, it was a bit like that. It was. I think it's because early morning. No one was sort of cheering and going mad. But I think if it was a night, you would have been. But it was in the morning. I know. Stop talking now. Yes, the one. There we go. That is it. Now you got to record that, and that's got to be in the podcast every episode. Now we do that when we all agree with something as well.
Spoiler alert!
Right. Yes. Moving swiftly on. So we talked a lot about characters there. So we talked about Charlie Cox and Matt Murdock in his cameo. We talked about Andrew and Toby coming back. So we'll talk characters. So Alex,
Yeah, Toby was my Spider-Man. So that's the thing. So I kind of worked out he was coming once Andrew Garfield came in. But then I was just like, when he arrived, and it's just there's a wave of nostalgia when in that scene. It was so good.
Did you make your sex sound, Alex?
No, I didn't make it, but it was. I wouldn't say it's more like an exhale. Maybe we're.
Could you maybe give us an example of an exhale?
No, I can't.
Toby requires. You're in the cinema. You've got your popcorn. You've just seen Garfield. You know Toby's coming. He's your Spider-Man. And then Ned opens a portal and it's Toby. Go.
Yeah, and I think it's just a
Here we go.
Now
There we go. There's the money shot.
Your sex voice.
Where did this come from, Bobby? Where did this come from? Anyway. But anyway, no, I just thought it was brilliant because I hadn't seen him on screen for so long. It was really nice to see him on screen. That's all. No dirty sex dreams about it. Just that's really nice. So yeah, no, I was quite pleased about that. Honestly, there's not much point talking more about it. I think we've all got our own favourites.
Yeah.
Who was yours, Bobby?
So, I mean, my Spider-Man as a child was Nicholas Hammond. So, John's nodding.
Yeah.
John's nodding. But no, I absolutely love Tobey Maguire because I remember sitting in the cinema. I remember going, the whole lead up the week before Sam Raimi's Spider-Man came out. I was so excited because it was the first time we were going to see Spider-Man for real on the screen, So Tobey Maguire I absolutely love, and I love what he did with the character. But Andrew Garfield for me is the one who actually nailed it because he was the Amazing Spider-Man, and the Amazing Spider-Man run from the late 80s is the one that I really sort of grew up kind of, really feasting on. Todd McFarlane. I had the last Todd McFarlane issue as well, which was worth quite a lot of money. And he just nailed it for me. I think what he brought to the role, obviously he was a huge fan of Spider-Man. I mean, he always wanted to play that character. But he just did such a cracking job with it. So Andrew Garfield. And then on the villain side, Willem Dafoe, I mean, they were all great. But, I don't think Sandman, what's his name, Thomas Hayden Church, wasn't actually physically in it, was he? They used his voice. So he voiced it, but then they just used archive footage for whatever, and then the rest was CGI, which was a shame. But, I mean, Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, sorry, just interject there. I think what you just said there about Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman spot on, a bit the same as as the Lizard. So I think Rhys Evans and Thomas Hayden Church voiced them.
Rhys Ifans.
Sorry,
actually,
Rhys
Evans.
That's my South London coming out there. I apologise. But I think COVID kind of stopped them from maybe actually being there as well, because it's very telling that the Lizard is in lizard form all the way through the film until he gets the injection, and then even then, I think the shot of Rhys Evans or whatever I did wrong there. Yeah, I think even that is from if it's a modern day picture of him, or it's from Amazing Spider-Man when it come out as well. So I think that might be a COVID thing, because if you check as well, I'm going a bit too quickly here, sorry, but when Aunt May dies, they do that scene where the Lizard is stuck in the van, and I think that's because they couldn't do all the shots they would need for the CGI and stuff for the Lizard. So I think that's why he's kept in the van, because they couldn't do it due to COVID, because the whole film was shot during the pandemic as well. But I'll leave it there. Go on. Sorry, please carry on.
I mean, also, a big bloody lizard might have scared her as well, to be fair.
Sorry, we had some internet connection issues there. So, Mark, if you can hear me, what John was saying is it also partly for the rating, because the kids might have been a bit scared.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So, of the villains, I think Jamie Foxx did a better job this time round than when he was originally Electro. Although, he's playing a much more confident version, because he's obviously got suddenly all of this multiverse's raw energy to draw on and stuff. Alfred Molina was fantastic. He just literally, it's like someone threw the Doc Ock ball at him and he just picked it up and he was like, oh, okay, yeah. And it was literally like he stepped off the set of Spider-Man 2 only yesterday. It was seamless. And then Willem Dafoe, the one problem I always had with Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is that they put him behind a mask. I mean, when you've got an actor like Willem Dafoe who looks like a goblin, right? Let's face it. I mean, I love the guy, but he does look like a goblin. I mean, he was born to play the Green Goblin, and they put him behind that stupid mask where we couldn't see him emote and all the rest of it. You know, this time round, to get rid of the mask really early on and smash it up and actually just put him in there, you know, as Harold Osborn was, Norman Osborn, sorry, was just absolutely, and he was brilliant. He was absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, there we go. Favourite characters. I'm done.
It's been done, it's going around the rounds again like it was a few years after it came out. But if you Google it, you can actually see the initial prototype that they had for the Goblin mask for the 2002 film, and it is so much better than what they actually did in the film. So if you want to Google it, it's like a rubber mask that they put on, but it's much more emotive and much closer to the character in the comics. But all the executives were worried that it was going to scare like the kids, and the kids would be too scared of it. That's them when they went for the metallic mask and the metallic outfit as well. But the original animatronic, if you get a chance to look at that, is brilliant. John, any characters you want to, or performances you want to highlight at all?
Well, I mirror Bobby in the Andrew Garfield, but I think he's just a beautiful person. I think he's a fabulous actor, and whatever he does, he's in Tick Tick Boom, isn't he, as well? And he just brings the emotions out, and there's so much chemistry, almost too much chemistry in the case of when he was Spider-Man. In fact, all three of the Spider-Men have all dated their female leads in these films, ironically. But he's brilliant, and I agree with Bobby. The emotions when he was dealing with kind of overcoming his problems about Gwen and sort of healing whilst being with MJ was fantastic. I have to give it to Tom Holland. I think for me, as an actor, he does an amazing job of representing Spider-Man as the school kid. With Toby and Andrew, fantastic actors, but they were obviously a little bit older in their roles. They were always young men. The thing about Tom Holland is I think he feels to me the most authentic as a school kid who's been thrust with his powers and having to deal with his real life getting in the way of being a hero. So we're giving a lot of love to the other actors, but I think Tom, he's got a lot going for him. And I think he's grown as an actor throughout these films as well. And you can see the opportunities he's having in other films now as well. I mean, Willem Dafoe, I agree with you, Bob, as well. Great actor. And it was really good. For me, it felt like a Greek tragedy with the Greek, the happy and the unhappy masks you see in the theatres. When that was smashed and we saw the real character come through, I thought that was really good. I want to talk more about the villains, but I think we'll talk about that in kind of our overview or our favourite things about it. But I'm a big fan of all these actors, and I've dropped a little picture in earlier on into our script. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a scene in the film when they all realise they're all Spider-Men and they all stand and point at each other.
Yes.
And that was a proper homage to the two Spider-Man meme, which got turned into a three Spider-Man meme. Yeah. And I thought again that was a nice, cool little touch that they did that. They recognised that as a meme. Anyway, moving on. Mm-hmm. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I just echo just what everyone else has said, really. Like, all those performances that you will talk about are really good. Just a bit different, I would say Marisa Tomei did a really good death scene as May. I thought, because you see, like, in that scene when he throws the pumpkin bomb, I did sort of think to myself, how are they going to survive that as well? And she comes up as if she's all right at first, and they do that thing where all of a sudden they realise she's got like a big gaping wound at the bottom of her chest. But I thought that was really well played, and I think both her and Tom Holland did that really, really well. So I thought that, and I've always enjoyed Mr. Tomei in these films. If I have a slight grumble about her character, I just don't think she's been given enough time in any of the films, really, as well. I know she's just like a supporting character in that, but like, I would say even as far back as Civil War when she was introduced, she's never had enough screen time for me, which is a shame. So I would like to see a bit more of her. But I'm going to nick something. Sorry from from John here as well about in notes, the idea that she is the Uncle Ben of this universe is a really good trick and a really good piece of writing as well. And I think, because Ben's never been referenced in this version, so I think we can say that she was never married, or she might have been divorced, or he's never talking about as well. So the fact that they reverse it so she's Uncle Ben is a good turnaround. And I am sorry to nick that, John, but I'm giving you full credit for that as well, because it's a very good point. And the other thing I really enjoyed with Tom Holland is after that happens, I think he's on the rooftop, and then there's that massive sort of jumbo screen of John James Jameson doing like another go at him as well. And even though it's raining, you see like his tears in there as well. What happened to May in his life, and I thought that was really beautifully done. And I thought that was a lovely scene as well. So, and also the chemistry between all the three of them. I think Garfield, Maguire, and Holland are all good actors, but the way that their camaraderie is so good straight away, and it's just little things like when they're designing all the, after they all meet, they're designing the ways like to subdue them, or aren't they? And in that, they're in the lab, aren't they? All discussing about their lives and what they've done, and they just feel like friends straight away and stuff. And it like even at the end when they're all hugging, and like Tobey Maguire says to Andrew Garfield, "You are amazing," and that, which I think is a bit of a nod to the criticism that he got when his films come out, and and Garfield saying to him, "I love you guys," and all that. It was just really well done, and there's a camaraderie there, and that just comes from just like that as well. It's like they're best buds within 5 minutes, but it doesn't feel like it's staged. It feels like they have been mates for ages, and I really like that about their performances. Okay, then.
So you liked it then?
Yeah, I did, yeah. You can say I liked it. I've got a few nitpicks, but very, very sort of minor as well. So we talked about characters, but is there any, in regards to the plot and what happened during the course of the film, any sort of twists and turns you didn't expect? Anything that you were surprised about? Things that was it easy to guess what was going to happen, or was there anything that you didn't think was going to happen? John?
I mean, the Aunt May death threw me. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, and there's always a problem with superhero movies and science fiction in general and fantasy about losing tension if the characters die and then come back. We might talk about that a little bit more later on. But I think the fact that Aunt May obviously is not a superhero and is fragile and she's dead, that threw me, and I think that made me feel more confident going forward with Marvel movies that perhaps they'll take a few more risks with their characters. I did like the turnaround with the villains. I like the idea, especially in the current world we're living in, where people need to be more kind to each other. I like the fact that Tom's Peter Parker's mission became, let's make these villains better. Let's make better people out of them. And I really, really like that idea. I thought that was a really nice theme for this film. And maybe, hopefully, people other than superheroes will take that on board, that we can actually see the good in people and make them better people. So for me, that was a twist in the story I didn't expect, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah, great. Well, what I call a great moral narrative, really.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Alex, anything for you?
Honestly, the more we talk about it, the more I like it. So I feel like what we should have probably done, because we all watched it at slightly different times, probably should have done this straight afterwards, where we were like, it's really close to our mind. So honestly, there wasn't very much at all. I think I was impressed how much this resonated with me emotionally. I think it was a much more powerful film than emotionally powerful film than an action film Marvel would normally do. And I think that probably tells you that it was a good film. For all its bits that you were like, not sure about, actually when it got to it, it was really well done and really felt like a suitable conclusion, which was nice.
Okay. Bob, anything for you?
It's actually really hard for me to think of any major problems with this, which will not be the case when we get on to the next bit. Which again is, it's just testament to the team behind the film. They did such a great job, and I totally agree with John that, one of the themes that really struck a chord with me, one thing that people closest to me say is my greatest flaw, and it's also my greatest strength, is the fact that no matter how much of a what someone is, I always try to look for the best in people. And it has got me in trouble quite a lot in my life, but I would rather be that way than, not see the best in people. It's not how I want to live my life, and it's exhausting to continue to see the worst in people. And I do know some people who are like that as well. And so that really, really, I really empathise with that sort of point of view of the character. A character which I've never really previously engaged with before, because, although I loved him when he first appeared in Civil War, I thought that was just such a great introduction to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He has done such a fantastic job with it. So he's not the person that I fault for this, but I have had a big problem with the way that Marvel, the MCU, has dealt with Spider-Man, and that's just a personal thing. It's just not my Spider-Man. My Spider-Man is a poor kid, from a poor neighborhood, but much like the Tobey Maguire one. When he moves out of home and he's not with Aunt May anymore, he's living in a really rubbish little studio apartment or whatever, and he's really struggling to make ends meet. Yet he's doing all this good for the world, in whatever capacity he can. And this one, was just sometimes has just got to the point where he's been like a spoilt brat, because he's always had Tony Stark behind him from even before we first meet him in Civil War. Because he's basically, in Civil War, he's Iron Man's Joker, right? Just pulls him out, and then all of a sudden he enters the fray in that famous airport fight. And he's just been that Tony Stark's kind of sport brat ever since. He's had all the Stark tech. Whenever he's had a problem, he's been able to run to Tony. Now, obviously, where they've redeemed themselves is the journey that he's gone through since Tony died, where he suddenly has been on his own, and he hasn't... he's had Happy to an extent, but now that Happy doesn't even know who he is completely out on his own. So, it was actually kind of nice to see where they left him at the end of the film, where he's now in his apartment, he's moved out, and I was expecting, I don't know if he reappears in it, but I was half hoping that the Polish guy or whatever he is from the Tobey Maguire's landlord, I was hoping he would turn up.
He may well do another film.
You call girl? Good. Yeah. You tell her I am man, you are a woman. It's good. Anyway, sorry, John's looking at me like that was inappropriate. It's fine. I'm European. I can get away with it. Diversity. Anyway, there we go. I think we should move on.
Yeah, I would make two very quick things. Is one, I think the ending's very clever with the spell when it's just strange, Like, don't do it. Like, stop people. Like, because at the start he says, "Make everyone forget I'm Spider-Man," and that goes wrong. And then he says, "Just make everyone forget me," as well. And I think that's a very nice linkage from the start of the film to the end of the film. And Strange says, "No, I don't want to do that." But he says, "But it'll work, won't it?" And Strange's like, "Yeah, it will work." So they do it as well. So he goes from everyone knowing him to no one knowing him, which I think is a nice way to end the film. And also, I really think the end scene as well, when he goes into the cafe where MJ's working and she doesn't know who he is, and Ned's there as well. And he wants badly to tell her of who he is and his name, but he realises that they're more safer if he's not around, which is really good. And that is a very, very Spider-Man thing as well. The comics have done that. That's a very Spider-Man thing. So I thought that was a really good way to finish it. And it does, like Bobby said about him being poor and back to his roots, it does do that, because at the end of the film You can see a sewing machine. He's making his own costume. He can't get access to the Stark Tech anymore now because of the government and also because everyone's forgot who he is. So he's on his own. He's making his own suit, and he's in a crappy flat, as Bobby said. So they really reboot him really to what he originally is. So I do like that about the film, the way it kind of ends his trilogy and then starts him on like a new way now with his own costume. And the only thing I was worried about was when Willem Dafoe's Goblin stabs Tony Maguire. I was really worried that they were going to kill off Tobey Maguire, because I was sort of thinking when he stabs him, I'm like, oh no, Toby's done the Harrison Ford deal in Star Wars, where he says, I'll come back for one, as long as you kill me off so I don't have to come back again. Because I think Tobey Maguire was very unsure about coming back. They got Garfield signed up really easily, but Tobey Maguire took a bit more convincing to sign up for it as well. So
can I just fact check you there?
Please interject.
Actually, what happened was those two signed up. They didn't even read the script. They didn't hesitate.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Because I read that he was a bit reticent, unless that's different. But I heard he was a bit joining in.
When they approached them to come back, both of them signed. They were like, "Yeah, straight away, we'll do it." They didn't even bother reading the script.
Because I was worried that he was doing, as I say, I was worried he was doing a Harrison and a Han Solo there, where he gets stabbed and killed by a Goblin.
Well, obviously, Tobey Maguire struggled to fit the film in between his busy schedule.
I thought you were going to say Tobey Maguire struggled to fit into the Spider-Man costume again now that he's in his late 40s.
He's obviously worked out for the film.
He looked good, didn't he? He did look good. Okay, cool.
Especially in the hugging scene when they were doing the physiotherapy bit.
Yeah.
Do you know that actually works in real life?
Yes. Yeah.
Because Carolina's got some back problems, so I normally sort of do this thing where I manipulate her back. But she asked me straight after that movie. Actually, she said, "Try that Spider-Man hug thing." So I was like, I mean, it's a shame she never asked me to do the Spider-Man kiss from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. But been married for too long.
My biggest concern as Spider-Man is what happens when you're in the Spider-Man suit and you get a bit excited. That would always worry me.
I don't think there's enough room to do that, though, is there, really?
Yeah.
It depends how tightly they're packing it in, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is, if you've got a dodgy back, right, if you can get someone, a friend, your partner, whatever, do that. Stand with your arms folded like Tobey Maguire did, and then do what Andrew Garfield did to him. Just give a nice squeeze to their arms and lift them up off the floor. And it stretches the spine out and it cracks it and gets it back into place. It actually works. I do it every night.
I would like to see someone try and lift me up and do that, but fair play. Okay.
I think next time we go to cinema with Bobby, that's what we're doing. There we go.
Next time we all go to the cinema together or individually, I will Garfield you. No problem.
Right. So you're saying we're going to go to cinema and then get some crack? Okay, fair enough. That's controversial. Right. Okay, I think we should wrap up because we've got another film to talk about. Does anybody want to say anything else about the conclusion, favourite scenes, post-credit scenes, anything that didn't make sense? They took a lot of things from different comics, so I know a little bit about that. Anyone else would like to say anything else at all?
Honestly, the only thing that missed me a little bit was that they just pasted the trailer in, rather than tying it towards the usual post-credit. Oh, and that will link to the next one in some way. It was no. This links. Here you go. It links exactly. There you go. But I think the problem was they couldn't not do that because of how it ended. So I feel I do understand why they did it, but I was a little bit like, but I was really looking.
Alex, you posted.
You're talking about the Eddie Brock
YouTube.
Sorry,
you posted a YouTube video, Alex, into the end of the document. I started watching it. And then stopped to go and watch the Doctor Strange What If episode.
Oh, right.
Before it spoilt it. But he mentions in that video, the presenter, about how there's actually a mid-film teaser, which is the scene with down by the Statue of Liberty, where Doctor Strange realises the sky splitting open and all these characters are coming through the cracks. And I think that was actually a better teaser to the multiverse of madness than the trailer. The trailer was brilliant. And I wonder if perhaps Marvel are trying to get past the effort of doing linking scenes and just having a trailer at each end of the film. Maybe they're trying to set a new precedent for it.
Maybe.
Also, the problem is, because now that they've opened up this multiverse good and proper, it means they can go anywhere. So, in all way, it's like the biggest cheat code, right, to, appeal to our gamer instincts, but it is like the biggest cheat code in history, because now what they've done is given themselves free rein to go over wherever the heck they want, and that kind of makes the linking end credit scenes a bit harder. I mean, I still haven't seen the Doctor Strange trailer, but after the Eddie Brock Venom scene mid-credits, we just got up and left. Because, like, Carolina said to me, aren't we going to wait for the end bit? And I said, no, there's no point, because it'll be on YouTube tomorrow. Because I knew it was a trailer, so what was the point waiting for it?
2 or 3 days, but you're right, it did turn up.
And I still haven't seen it, so maybe I'll do that after we finish it.
It's a great trailer. Get involved in that straight away.
What I'd like, can I just mention one thing about the conclusion of the film? One of the most affecting scenes for me was it was a very clever scene because it piled in a lot of hidden meaning in a very short sequence, and that was when we've talked about it briefly before. When Peter Parker goes to the cafe to see MJ. And Ned's there as well, and he goes up to the counter to start telling her, they promised that they wouldn't forget each other, and he was going back to remind her who he was and what happened in the previous universe. And then he looks up and he sees the plaster on MJ's brow, which was a leftover from one of the cuts from the previous scene, and he realizes in that moment that every time she's involved with him, she gets hurt, and how actually, to truly love someone, you have to be prepared to sacrifice their harm for the sake, sacrifice your relationship for the sake of saving them. I thought that was a very, very clever writing. There was a lot being told in a very simple motion, a very simple scene, and it also spoke to me that Peter Parker's grown up. Peter Parker of the first film would have told her who he was and dragged her back into another adventure, but he actually, he was a man enough to know this is not good for her. I'm not good for her. I've got to move on, and that's more important than my love for her. And I thought that was really good. I mean, they've moved the Stark away, who's the father figure. They've got him in this, as you said, this little studio apartment. So it's very much setting up for a Spider-Man film like the old days, if that makes sense. Yeah. And whether they use Tom Holland or another actor, I don't know. We can speculate about that another time, but that really affected me, and I thought that was really, really well written, and that for me was one of the most emotional scenes of the film. I thought it was really good.
And I think the scene with him and Happy at the end, with him at May's grave, sort of carries it on, doesn't it, as well, because Happy doesn't even know him, which was quite harsh as well.
They'd really, that's what I mean, it's a really good conclusion, because they've wrapped up a lot well. Like at the end, it felt like it and this is it. If it was his last Spider-Man film, I think we'd be like, okay, that's a good way to go. So yeah, no, I think that's good. I'm conscious of time, so I think we should probably wrap up and move on to our other case. Now,
can I just say one very quick thing on Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I like the gag with Jamie Foxx saying, "Why isn't there a black Spider-Man?" which made me laugh a lot, because it's obviously a nod to Miles Morales, and we're obviously
and Venom.
Or Venom, yeah. And I'm really hoping we get Miles Morales in the next trilogy. Well, I think we will get him, but he's such a great character. So I did like that little nod to Miles Morales.
There's a Spider-Verse 2 coming out, remember, as well.
That's animated, yeah. So yeah, that's right, yeah.
Still my favourite Spider-Man film.
Yeah, yeah. As in live action, we haven't seen him yet. So because we've got the Prowler in the first.
We have seen Miles Morales in live action.
In which film?
He was in the science fair at the beginning in the first film.
No, that's Peter Parker.
Yeah. No, but he was in the science fair.
He was in the science fair in the first film.
Right, is that what the bit with the kid where he does that and Iron Man says "good shot"? That one.
Well, it's a science fair where they're all showing off their wares, aren't they? And he's there as I think also with there's another character from the Marvel Universe who became a bit of a nemesis for Spider-Man, blonde-haired sort of school jock who became. Come on, Mark, you're the comic guy.
What Flash Thompson? Do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. He's there as well.
Yeah, because
with Miles Morales.
Yeah, because Tony, I'm going to get his name wrong. Tony Reminoli, who is this universe's Flash Thompson, but he's just been like race swapped and everything like that. So he's very different to. So Flash Thompson in the comics, as you say, like this blonde haired big jock as well.
But what we're saying, Mark, is Miles Morales is in. We have seen a live action version of him, But I think you're right, Alex. We do need to move on. Yeah. Over to you, Bobby.
So moving on, we're going to jump from the multiverse to the Matrix. See what I did there? We are going to talk about the Matrix Resurrections next, and we will be jumping straight into spoilers. So if you've not seen the movie yet, please pause now, go see it, then take a red pill and jump straight back in. I'm going to give a little synopsis because we don't really often do that, and some people might be listening to this and not seen the Matrix Resurrections, and might not have any interest in seeing it and wasting 2 hours of their lives either. Told you we were jumping into spoilers. The Matrix Resurrections is the sequel to the 2003 Matrix Revolutions and the fourth installment in the Matrix film franchise. It was written, produced, co-written and directed by Lana Wachowski and features returning stars Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss and a whole host of others. The film is set 60 years after the events of Revolutions and follows Neo, who lives a seemingly ordinary life as a video game developer troubled with distinguishing dreams from reality. He has used these fractured memories to create a mega successful video game series called The Matrix. He is freed from a new version of The Matrix when a group of rebels free him and they fight a new enemy that holds Trinity captive. So...
That's quite spoilery, that synopsis.
It was
isn't
very spoilery, yeah. But I mean, that's this film all over. I mean, the trailer, there was just no surprise. So anyway, guys, did you enjoy it? And how did you see it? Alex?
Yes. I'm trying to work out how to do this. So I don't think it met my expectations. So I think that's the best way to describe it. I think a lot of the things that it set up, it didn't deliver. And a lot of the things that we enjoyed about the previous Matrix, it took away. And so it felt like a hollow version of the Matrix. That's probably the kindest way of me describing it, actually. And that's just because I love the Matrix. I really enjoyed it, and I was really looking forward to this. But really, what I was looking for is more of the same, and I don't feel like I got more of the same there. And also, it didn't take me somewhere that I necessarily wanted to go. It was trying to do something that I didn't need it to do. So anyway, that was my thoughts for it.
Poor Alex got taken down a particularly stinky rabbit hole. John?
Okay, so let's just give you some background here. Two things: my passion for the Matrix universe and my frame of mind when I watched the film. So I am a massive Matrix fan, and I've watched all the films at least 40 times. I have played all the video games. I wasn't involved in the Matrix Online, which was the sort of big MMORPG. I'd moved on by then, but I have actually recently played, and I think you have as well, Bobby, the new Resurrections demo on the PS5.
Yeah, it looks amazing. It's really boring.
I really enjoyed it. So that game was a kind of a microcosm of the film. I also, just for more background, I had a cinema ticket bought, and on that day discovered I was positive for COVID, so I couldn't go and see it, and I was absolutely gutted. And luckily, I managed to get to watch it on HBO Max, which I didn't mind too much because I'd already paid for it as a cinema ticket. But I really, really love this film, and I think for me, it was exactly what I needed to watch at the time. I was very low. I know I was very low. The expectation was to see it, and I couldn't because I had to isolate. So being able to watch it online at home, I didn't watch it at cinema. I watched it at home. What I perhaps need to do after this conversation is watch it again at the cinema. But I really liked it, and I think I find it really interesting that you can be a massive fan. And most of the time, if you're a massive fan, there's a lot of bias on an opinion of a film, if that makes sense. But actually, we've got lots of massive fans here with differing opinions. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you all say.
Interesting. Mark?
Where to start? So there are
How did you see it? First of all, did you went to the cinema? Did you?
I went to cinema to see it. Yeah. So I saw that come out. So yeah, saw cinema. Very similar to I saw Spider Man. Sort of first showing was 11. It was like 11 in the morning, 12 o'clock. So it was nice and quiet. So I went to see it as well. I do need to see it more than I've only seen it. See Spider Man I've seen twice. I need to see The Matrix again. I think to have more firmer opinions. But based on one viewing, there's aspects of it that I do like. I think some of the action sequences, although not a patch on the previous films, are quite good. And I do think there's some interesting things they do, but it just seemed like, I think Alex summed it up brilliantly, like a hollow Matrix sort of thing as well. It just seemed to me that no one could really be asked. I hope I can say that on the pod, sorry. It
felt forced, didn't it, a bit?
Yeah, it felt like no one really wanted to be there, but everyone was there for the paycheck, if that makes sense. And
not Neo, obviously, not Keanu Reeves.
No, he donated 70% of his salary, didn't he, to cancer research.
He got paid $45 million for it and gave away donated $35.5 million to cancer research.
That's Keanu,
he's
isn't
a
it?
good
All
boy,
over. Yeah,
Keanu.
he's magnificent, isn't he? And I say that I thought Jessica Henwick actually was really good. She was one of the big positives of the film. I thought she was excellent in the film. It takes forever to get going. I just don't think the recasting of Morpheus and Agent Smith works at all. I don't think that works at all. And I can't even remember how Agent Smith sort of comes about or why he's still there. I don't think that's explained. He's just there as part of the program. Unless I missed something when I was watching it. Like, we have this guy doing a really bad Hugo Weaving impression to be Agent Smith. I don't understand why
he was always there when Neo returned to the Matrix. Then that's when Smith woke up, as it were. So his because he was in the Matrix again. That's why Smith existed. But you're right. It wasn't really explained very well.
No. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, right? So the reason why Neo and Trinity are kept alive is because the energy that they generate between them as a couple sort of powers the machines more, doesn't it? That's right. Everyone, I'm saying that, isn't it? Well, that's what I took from it.
The analyst, the creator of this new version of the Matrix,
he's
basically resurrected Neo and Trinity and kept them alive to study them and work out what makes them tick. And it's also almost a form of, he's almost torturing Neo as well by kind of keeping him in and out of the Matrix and reality, and all these fractured memories that he has as well, and this love that he has from Trinity that transcends everything else, but he can't quite. When you're in a dream and I can't believe I'm going to say something positive about this film, but it's like when you're in a dream and you can't, your mind knows what you need to do to reach out to something or touch something or snog the face off someone. But you can't quite control it. You can't quite get there. It's it's torture, isn't it?
If you watch the Animatrix animated shorts, which I'm sure you all have, the Renaissance episode that kind of gives you the background to the beginning of the machines. It's not something to be shown to children. It's quite disturbing when the machines, after the war between the humans and machines, get a whole bunch of humans. And they do the Da Vinci on them. They try and work out the machinations of the humans, how their muscles work, how their brains work. And there's some amazing scenes in this cartoon where they're making humans laugh and smile and cry by shoving metal spikes into their brains that have been half chopped open and stimulating them. And I actually got a lot of that from the scene where they're describing how they resurrected Neo, but they put him through the paces to see how he worked. I'm pretty sure it's a nod to that, but that's horrible, and that's quite a dark part to the film, I think.
But that's sort of the film I'd like to see, though, than this. This seems so superficial to me a little bit in this, aside from bits that are quite good. So I get the promise.
So, Mark, you'd probably want something more like Clive Barker's Matrix.
No, I mean, I don't need to see gore and
be
stuff
awesome.
and that, but like, I just think if you're going to reboot this after nearly 20 years, you've got to be really like convinced you want to do it, or really like knock the script out of the park before you start it. And
Mark,
yeah, go on, please, yeah.
Can I just say that the whole point of this film is because of that expectation. So Warner Brothers told Lana Wachowski, and they actually reference this in the film, which I thought was hilarious. They said to Lana Wachowski, and actually her sister as well, we're going to make this film. There's it's been long enough now. It's hit that 20-year mark where nostalgia cashes in, ka-ching. We're going to make it with you or without you, but we're going to make it. So there's absolutely no way that they could meet the expectations of the fans. And so this is what she's done with it. And I don't think the entire thing is a troll to the fans. I think the property's too special to her. But I do think there's a lot of, you think you want this, we're not going to give you it. Let's just kind of spin those expectations on the head. And that's what I think has happened a little bit. I'm not saying the whole film is like that, but there are certain aspects of this film which are, you're expecting this, you're not going to get it. Whether that works or not, it's worked for some people, it's not worked for others. It's definitely not the same reception as the first film. Now, you've got to remember as well, the reason the first film was so successful was because it was something we'd never seen before. The bullet time special effects were revolutionary and they influenced the whole industry. The problem with, and I'm sure this has been mentioned in other film reviews, the problem with this film is there was none of that. We're so desensitized to amazing special effects now and there was no new groundbreaking stuff going on in the film. And so straight away, whatever happens, it's never going to meet the expectations of the viewers. And I think perhaps that's why there's so many self-referential jokes and nods in there. It's kind of a little bit of a, here's what you're going to get. Here's your plate. Now eat it. Here's your, I think that's part of the problem. And I completely understand that people won't like this film. I can completely see that. I can't say why I like it so much. I was just so happy to see more of it, even if it was the way it is. I just really enjoyed it as a bit of a silly popcorn romp, if that makes sense. I don't know if you
as a bit of a guilty pleasure, I can see it working. And it's like, oh, this is the extra episode that we didn't get before, we didn't have, and now
I think if people are listening to this as a review, Alex, just go in without any expectations and see how you feel, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
But streaming.
The thing with a guilty pleasure is that guilty pleasures you want more of, right? Whether it's food or movies or a particular TV show that you love, you want more of it. And with this, I mean, I walked out disappointed. My history of The Matrix is that when I first saw it, the only thing I was aware of, I think, was a review in Empire magazine, which was literally one of their 1/8 of a page reviews, because it was this obscure film that nobody really knew anything about. And I didn't even read that. It was just a picture of Carrie-Anne Moss in her leathers and whatever. And the promotional campaign at the time, you just had the Matrix logo on all the buses with the tagline, "What is the Matrix?" And that's really stuck in my head, because eventually you repeat it long enough, you're like, what is the Matrix? And so me and some friends were going out one Saturday night. We had a hall pass and from our parents, and it was like, let's go to the cinema. What should we see? And I said, should we just go find out what this Matrix thing is? So we went in absolutely zero expectations, didn't know what the hell this thing was about, didn't know who was in it even, and walked out with our heads blown off, minds absolutely blown. And that film, it just lived with me for so long afterwards. It just stuck in every fibre of my being, and I started questioning everything. Is this real? Am I awake? Am I dreaming? Just all of the concepts and stuff, because we'd never seen anything like that. I mean, obviously those types of themes have been, if you read Philip K. Dick and so on, it's all there, but and the bullet time stuff and the action sequences and so on. So went into this knowing it wasn't going to be as good as that original, so I didn't have any expectations, and I just sort of let myself kind of feel my way through it. And the point, about 20 minutes in, I was distracted. I was looking at my watch, wondering how much longer this was going to go on for. And I just walked out so disappointed, and hollow, as Alex put it, is the perfect adjective.
Yeah.
How can you
there
beat?
was just no wow factor.
You can't beat. There's that
can't-
moment in the first film, and I rewatched it recently again before we went to see it, and I watched it with my daughter. Certain scenes that I wouldn't have watched, but there's the one scene which I know what you say when your mind being blown. There was that scene in the film that nobody knew about, and it's the scene where Neo wakes up, and the shock when you realise, because I had no idea. The mirror goes all liquidy, and his finger gets covered in shiny stuff, and when he wakes up, and you suddenly, and it dawns on you, and you suddenly go, "Oh my god!" And my daughter had exactly the same reaction. And it's great to see that again 20 years later. How can you beat that? How can you think of a film in the last 10 years, even now, that's given you that kind of, mind-blowing kind of realization? I can't think of a film.
Yeah.
There must be something, but I can't
Look,
think.
for me, the
How do you
mind-blowing
beat that?
thing was actually at the beginning of the movie when Trinity, when the cops are after her and they're about to shoot, and she just jumps up in the middle, knees up in the air, and the camera just spins around her 360, and then she
We've
kicks
never
a
seen that
living
before.
delay. We've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. You know you're going into this, and you're never going to top that original movie. That thing will stand alone for as long as the Earth exists as being one of the best, most innovative, groundbreaking science fiction movies ever. But this one, you either kind of repeat some of the beats a la Force Awakens of what people loved about the original, but you don't take away from it. And the way that they did things like change the action sequences and almost dumb those down with all the quick cuts and editing and so on, I've got no desire to see this film ever again. It doesn't matter to me. I've seen the original Matrix well over. It's easy in the high 90s, if not in the hundreds. I've seen that film so many times, but this I don't care if I never see it again, unfortunately. And I'm really, really disappointed with that. And I really feel kind of bad because there were some interesting themes in it. I think the ideas were great, but I think the execution was poor. That's the problem for me. So anyway, sorry.
Go on, sorry. No,
Go on, Mark.
No, I was just going to agree with that as well. Like, I don't need to see something like new. And I know a big thing about the first one is, the bullet time and all that. And I know that was new, but like, I don't need, like, I'm not waiting to be wowed again. I know the universe. And a lot of why The Matrix was so good as well in 99 is because it was actually a very good alternative to Phantom Menace when it came out as well. Sort of, The Matrix was like the anti-Star Wars film, which I think helped it as well. But yes, it was absolutely everything that John said is right. It was revolutionary and it was brilliant and that. I don't expect to be like wowed by something new or expect the same thing again. I just want it like to be coherent and just to make sense. And I'm not expecting it to be as
I
good.
thought it was more coherent than the second two films.
I just like, for me, there's just
Less difficult to follow.
Yeah, for me, and again, I've only seen it once, but like, and feel free to keep me if I'm wrong here. Yeah, things I didn't understand. Okay, I don't know where Smith comes from because I know I've come back to what I said before. I know, sorry, but like, Smith was in brackets killed in Revolutions, right? And if they want to experiment on Neo and Trinity, okay, because the thing about Smith is that he was a rogue. He was a rogue agent at the end, wasn't he? At the end of Revolutions, he had become a program that the Matrix couldn't control anymore. So if he was now a program that they can't control and he's damaging the Matrix, why would you sustain him in there? So so having Smith in it didn't make any sense to me at all. On the Morpheus thing as well. Now, again, am I right in saying that Morpheus is created by Neo's subconscious when he's still in the pod and he's being dormant? That was what I got from it, was like, obviously it's not the Morpheus from the original films.
That's what they're selling. Yeah, that's what
that
he
he's
was saying
the
that was it.
That
he's done subconsciously. Yeah, okay.
But he is an agent as well at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, okay. So he's an agent. Yes, he's an agent in this film. So it's Neo's subconscious that makes him into Morpheus. Okay, so the idea of Morpheus must be in Neo's brain. Okay, and then he escapes and we go 60 years in the future, and we see an old version of what's the lady's name? Will Smith's wife. Sorry, not Jade.
Jada.
Yeah, Jada Pinkett Smith. Sorry, yeah, and then. And then she says, "Oh, like it's changed since you've been gone," but we don't. But there's no explanation as to what has changed, and that So, like, says, "Oh, yeah, there was some peace for a while, but now it's not," and we're not given any kind of. They don't go the whole backstory into it as well. There's no context for what happened straight after, like Neo and Trinity at the end of Revolutions. It's supposed to be a truce. We're not told how long the truce lasted. We're not told anything until now they've started again to hunt us again, and it was just empty.
With Agent Smith, Mark.
Yeah, go on. Smith.
So when at the end of Resurrections, Neo destroyed Smith by destroying his code for the inside out. It goes inside him, doesn't it? He blows him up.
Yeah.
But because they took great pains in the second two movies to show that Smith and Neo were bonded. They were kind of a bit like a dyad from Star Wars. They complemented each other. So some of Neo's own powers were then imprinted onto Smith when he blew him up. So Smith was then able to return to the source, because this is still a program, and was faced with the ultimatum of deletion, and so he rebelled and became what's an exile program. So he's actually an exile program like the rest of them. He then returned to the Matrix and learned that he could no longer travel across the Matrix by possessing anyone else. Like, how the agents take over each other and they can morph. So he lost that ability. He was no longer an agent of the Matrix. But his other ability was to be able to assimilate anyone, human or program, and clone their personality or presence. So it's slightly different than just looking like them. But he was never destroyed. A little bit of him, basically, with Neo's powers, returned to the source and became an exile program. And that's the explanation they have in this film.
Which I didn't get at all.
It's not clear at all.
Yeah, and I don't need to be I like spoon-fed.
You don't know how much they cut out this film.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I don't need to be spoon-fed stuff at all. I can make up my own imagination in that, but I don't know. They farted around at the start far too much with this thing about Neo invented the Matrix and was in his job and all that. The scenes in the coffee.
I like that. I like that loop.
Yeah, but how long did they take in the coffee shop? 5 scenes it was, and then they finally.
I love those
talking.
Moments. I love those moments.
But they're just too long.
That's showing you that relationship between Neo and Trinity.
So this is the problem, though. So
I don't need 10 minutes of it though.
Mark, let me fix the coffee shop scene for you. Yeah. After Alex, you first, and then I'll fix it.
So the thing is, for me, those character moments between Keanu and Carrie-Anne Moss, they were actually good parts of it. They were the bits that, and actually all of the character bits in the film actually really worked quite well. I think the problem was it didn't really know what it was trying to do. Was it trying to do what was the story it's trying to tell? And what they should have done is they should have said, look, this story is just about Trinity and Neo. It's not about anyone else. And they should have therefore they shouldn't have. What happened was they whet our appetite with lots of exposition about why it's all the way it was. Then they said, oh yeah, and the world's completely changed as well. And we're like, oh great, how does that change things? And then what it came back to was it doesn't change it at all. And that was the bit that frustrated me, is if they'd have said, yeah, you know what, it does move things along, things are different, and you know what, Trinity's going to call the shots this time instead of Neo, I would have been like, oh, okay, that's cool, I really enjoyed that. But what
do you not think, though, they're going to make that for the next film, Alex?
I can't imagine they'll make another one.
I don't think there's going to be another film, John. I mean, look, as of today, on a $190 million budget, which, okay, we know a quarter of which Keanu Reeves gave away, the box office today is $106 million. This is a bomb.
So there could be... The thing is, there's reasons why that's the case, because in the US...
You can
it's
argue
still
about
released
COVID
on
and that,
HBO,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
the other part of it is, they're not going to look at these numbers absolutely purely like they used to as much. They're not going to have DVD release as much. That's not. But they'll probably break even. They just won't make a lot of money. And I think the problem is they should have made a lot of money. And that if you compare it to Spider-Man, for example, Spider-Man made 1.4 billion at the moment. Bond has made like a huge amount, and it had the potential to do well. I'm not suggesting it would have done amazing, but it could have easily cleared 400 million. And I think the problem with it was partly timing, because actually there was a lot of screens devoted to Bond even at that time. But I think also partly because it had some early reviews that just said, "Don't watch it. Go and watch Spider-Man again."
Yeah.
And that's what people did.
From a brutal business point of view, Warner Brothers are going to look at that property and they're really going to ask some serious questions now and say, because they're going to look across the road at Sony, who've had a brilliant year, right? Which is a great thing for Sony. It's also kind of worrying from us because it means they're going to take more control over Spider-Man now that they've got him kind of back for a bit from Marvel and Disney. And they could go back to having the potential to screwing it up because Morbius isn't, it's not setting anyone's world on fire. Anyway, sorry, we're not here to talk about all of that. But anyway, I doubt very much there'll be a sequel.
About that film.
I don't think there's any point. I mean, I walked out of this thinking, what the hell was the point anyway? Mark, coffee shop scene. This is how I would spice it up for you if it was me, okay? Trinity goes to get her espresso and she sees Keanu leering at her again. It's that guy. I've got my 2 kids with me and I'm married, and he just does that every single time. So she picks up a latte, she throws it at him, and he basically, as it comes to hit his head, he goes and he falls back in that original Matrix bullet dodging.
Bobby's doing his slow-mo arms everywhere, bullet time, avoid the bullet.
How's that? Better?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we're all going to pitch our alternative endings then. So, for the last 20 minutes or so of the film, I was convinced that Neo and Trinity were machines with a human skin over the top. And I was expecting a real revenge twist at the end that actually they weren't alive. Because, again, in the Animatrix, there are some robots that look like humans, but are, before the machines take over, they're like functional human, like sex bots and things. And I really thought perhaps the machines were going to put these 2 back in as a sort of decoys, as spies, but they were actually machines. And I was waiting for Keanu's head to open up and have the red eyes underneath for the squiddies.
That would have been
That's
a good
how I
reveal.
imagined the ending would be. A real dark ending, and everyone goes, "Ah!" and then you just die. It'd be brilliant.
That would have been.
Alex, how about you? What would be your ending?
So I think the thing is, the story I would have wanted to tell was how, they talked about this uneasy truce, but it would have been nice to conclude it in a way that meant that, there was more of a future for humanity. So it was more of a symbiote relationship, because at the moment they've kind of alluded to that, but then they've not actually, they've not actually opened that up properly. They've just said, "Oh yeah, some machines help," and I think it would have been nice to just sort of show how that could evolve. But
do you think, Alex, that lifestyle's threatened now that Neo and Trinity are all stirring up the hornet's nest again?
Well, this is
was the concern,
this is
wasn't
the problem,
it?
isn't it? Yeah,
That was the concern they had, wasn't it,
Yeah.
when he started saying, which is why they imprisoned him. They were worried about him stirring things up again.
exactly. I kind of feel like they basically said, "Look, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem," and then he sort of went, "Fine, I'll be part of the problem then." And it's like, no, don't be part of the problem. Just
Do
that's,
as you're told, Neo.
yeah. Well, I'm not suggesting that he's got no free will or anything, but equally, it's like, how do you reset this in a way that makes you feel like it's, it's something has been resolved, and I just didn't feel like it was resolved this time.
Ideally, the perfect solution would be the machines are over, humans can repopulate the Earth.
Well, that'd be the happy ever after ending.
That would be
but-
the happy hour after. Is that ever going to happen? Or are we going to have
No.
another film where they do? Or more likely, as Mark suggested earlier on, I'd quite like to see an origin story with the original battle of the machines and the humans and the sort of going from the world of how it was to how it is now. I think that'd be a more interesting film, actually.
I think you're going to have a reboot. I think
Yeah.
or they'll go heavy into like, hey, they could do like the Blade Runner series Black Lotus that we've been watching on Crunchyroll, because actually that they could really go into that with Matrix, and that would be perfect for that.
An
Kind
interesting universe with different characters, you mean?
yeah. So honestly, like they've got a lot of opportunity there. I don't know whether what stopped the Wachowskis. Like, do they own the rights to it, or how does that work?
I think no.
Something
Warner owns the rights. Warner owns the rights, and they gave Lana the first chance to do something about it. If she didn't, then they do it themselves.
So they're not flexing their muscles on it. So maybe now all bets are off, and we'll see lots more Matrix stuff, which would be great. But genuinely, don't do a sequel. Do something different.
I'm more excited about a new Matrix video game than a film, to be honest.
Yeah.
With the current gen.
Yeah, I think that's a good. The technical thing was quite impressive.
I was very impressed by it, yeah.
The demo that you could load on the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, and it is very impressive what they can do, and it kind of reinforces that it's a computer game, but equally it's all about being in a computer. So it really aligned really nicely. We just haven't seen that properly leveraged yet. So
I think you all need to watch that video I posted a while ago, which is the end of the video game, the Matrix Path of Neo, where they retcon the ending of Resurrections, and Agent Smith basically drew up all the buildings and bodies of other agents into a mega Godzilla type mega agent. And when Neo finally defeated him, this is all true, it's actually happened, they then played a Queen track at the end, We Are the Champions.
nice.
That's how they should have ended it, just like the video game.
I was just pleased when Screen Rant did their pitch meeting about it, because it just reinforced. It's worth seeing. It just reinforced some of my feelings. But anyway, sorry, Bobby, you go ahead.
I know, that's okay. I just love the way that we've pretty much done most of the agenda for this segment. There obviously it wasn't all completely bad, even though it was. There were some bright spots. We obviously got to see a lot of returning characters from the series, but there were some new characters as well. Any favourites that stood out for you in particular? Mark, you've already mentioned Jessica Henwick.
Yeah, I really like Jessica Henwick. So I liked her in Iron Fist, actually. I thought she was quite good in that, and I think
She's the only good thing in that.
Yeah, well, the second series is a lot better than the third. The first is terrible. Second series is a bit better. But I like her as an actress. I think she's really good, and I thought she's really good in this. And although she's been in Netflix, I think I would like to see her given a starring vehicle where she's the lead in something, because I think she's really underrated. I think she's really good. And I'd like to see her in some more stuff. I think that she's probably
she was kind of the love interest in Love and Monsters. I thought she was very good in that.
I haven't seen that. Sorry, yeah.
It's good. It's worth watching. It's a good film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, probably better than you probably enjoy it more than The Matrix.
Yeah. So I'd like to see her in that. Actually, the only thing I will say, I thought the final battle was quite good. I liked it when Carrie-Anne Moss says, "My name is Trinity," and does she smash? She punches the husband? Is that right? Yeah. She says, "I'm Trinity."
He's actually Keanu Reeves' stunt double from the original films.
Yeah. And I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I thought the motorcycle chase was good. I thought what I also thought is that for too many times Keanu Reeves or Neo does that sort of thing, like that false projection sort of thing he does. He does it too many times. I think he does it like 5 or 6 times. But I thought it was an interview when they start like making the people like fall from the buildings to get in their way. I like that was quite good. So the end scene was quite good, and I do like the idea that Trinity has now got the same powers, is equal or even more powerful than Neo. and the way they both fly off at the end. I do like that. I think that's really good that they've leveled it up now as well.
But don't you think, Mark, that was kind of a steal from your favourite movie, The Rise of Skywalker, where they're basically like a forced dyad? Or even Hancock with Will Smith and Charlize Theron.
No, not
There was
really.
nothing original. There was nothing original about that. I was just when they kind of did the joining hands and we got to stop them from joining together because then otherwise we're absolutely screwed. And I was just rolling my eyes, thinking, "Oh, come on, for God's sake! I mean, really, you just, Tom's one of the oldest tales in the book."
Yeah, but at least she's just not like the sidekick all the time, which we see all the time with female characters, and we're gradually seeing less of that now. Things like Black Widow, Captain Marvel have done that as well. So, I mean, yeah, all right, you can say it's contrived and it's not new, but I think it's in this film, in this universe, it's quite welcome to see that as well.
It's addressing the balance, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like about. Yeah. So, yeah, Bob, it may not be particularly original, and I take the point completely, but I think, yeah, as John said, I think leveling up is good in this particular franchise. I think that absolutely works as well. I think that's a good idea, and the fact that she's got these abilities now, and in fact, I doubt they're making another one of these, but that would interest me watching that actually. What would make me interested actually is that, all right, if they're both on the same page at the moment, what if they don't get on? What if they both have the same powers now? What if that relationship deteriorates? What if they don't love each other anymore? They fall out, What are the ramifications for that in the real world, and what's the ramifications for that in the Matrix? That would be quite interesting. Does one of them go to the dark? As you Star Wars analogy, does one of them go to the dark side? That'd be quite. That sort of. If they're going to explore Neo and Trinity more, that would interest me. And the ramifications. I think they're
going to have to hurry up, though, Mark, aren't they? Really? I mean,
well,
both
yes.
Carrie Ann and Keanu.
Well, I don't know. Keanu's 57. Yeah, but Keanu's 57. He looks about 37, doesn't he? I mean, he does like he hardly ages. He looks great, and Carrie Ann Moss looks great. She's only 54. She looks really good as well.
There's a lot of pressure, particularly on Carrie Ann Moss and her appearance, and I feel like it would detract from the kind of the film if you just assumed that nothing had changed. So it's kind of I like the fact that they brought them they're in at their ages. So I liked that, but I feel like you can't play that again. You then need to decide what you're going to do with it. So
yeah, but sorry, Alex. Sorry, you're speaking. Sorry, I was interrupting.
No, it's that's all I had to say. But I mean, honestly, I think it was good, but I think there's got to be a time. What for me, what would have been ideal would have been it's like a John Wick 3. So it's not pretending to be anything different. It's just trying to serve up more of the same. And I think in which case you just get a lot of the original people back in. You might bring in a couple of extra people to play the plot or whatever. But really you just bring the original people in, they play their bits, and everyone goes, yeah, I really like that. And do you know what? That's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think all of our thoughts are around like the storyline and the world. I don't think they need Neo and Trinity to do that. I think we could do that through other people playing Neo or Trinity.
The biggest problem they had, Alex, was not having Lawrence Fishburne back, and I think that must have made such a difference with how they wrote the story and what an impact it had on the characters.
So they didn't ask him.
No,
right.
They didn't. No.
Apparently, according to, I mean, I was looking at this on while we're on, but apparently he was never asked. Wachowski's never cast him or asked him to be done. The same was true of the other guy. But I think that
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving. Yeah,
but
Smith.
That's it. So I think the thing is, she had him in a mind that this would serve the plot. But I don't think it really helped, and I think it would have just been nicer to have had like that fight sequence was really a nice bit. I was like, do you know what, this could be, even if it's just a repeat of the original one, okay, let's do this. And then it wasn't as good, and I was like,
Weaving, they did want Weaving back, but he had scheduling conflicts, and they just couldn't make it work.
This was a problem because this was all done. Like just before COVID, and then over COVID. So it was really poorly timed.
So, John, I'm going to hand over to you. Look, I loved Bugs. Jessica Henwick's great. She's a martial artist in real life, and I just think that the editing of the fight scenes just did not do her justice at all, and that was another big gripe I had with them. But John, favourite characters?
Yeah, I mean, I like Jessica Henwick as well. I am in love with Keanu Reeves, and that is a problem I have.
I think we all are.
No, I
want
think
to
everyone
marry him
is.
and spend the rest of my life with him. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, Jessica Henwick stood out big time. I really enjoyed her role. And as before, I'd like to see her in more stuff. She was great in Game of Thrones, and she's got this kind of allure in Love and Monsters. And I liked, without spoiling the film, I liked the turnaround in that as the love interest in Love and Monsters. So, yeah, I think she's quite young, and I think she'll go far.
Yeah. So, just before we wrap up, apparently there was a post-credits scene or trailer, which I've got no clue about, because literally as soon as the credits rolled, we were out of there. Like our entire we were in a fully packed, fully booked IMAX screen, and everyone apart from a handful of people just got up as soon as the end credits started rolling and just walked out. And I did not like that version of Wake Up either. Anyway,
Brass Against the Machine.
yeah.
I did. I liked it.
I mean, I love the original, obviously, but it was. So I'm going to defer to you guys on this post-credit scene, because this is fascinating for me.
It was a joke.
It was just a gag about the game developers picking out, ideas for a new version, and then they talked about the cat tricks, and then that was literally the gag.
I think they were referring to how popular cat videos are on the internet.
That's
let's
right.
call it the cat tricks, and basically kind of just proving how much of an idiots they all are. It wasn't very complimentary to PR people and game designers, that film, I have to say.
Yeah.
The thing is that would have been. I just don't think it was needed. Like, it was nice, but it was nice that they went to the trouble of that. But it just made them look like idiots. Which
the problem is the marketing for this film was very, very poor.
Yeah,
you could go to the website and take the red or blue pill, but there's nothing like the bus adverts that Bobby mentioned earlier on. Now, we all knew what it's about. There was no real tease. The very final scene of them jumping off the building was leaked a year or two ago. I think it really suffered from, and I think that cat tricks scene would have actually been quite a good trailer for the film, or like a little viral campaign before the film started.
a bit of a troll
that might have had more effect.
Good, yeah. No, I think the thing is, part of it was about expectation setting, and I just think they wanted to blow it up as a big thing, and I think it would have been. But then every movie tries to do that, don't they? So, but yeah. Also, I think the thing is, part of me, like, I know the mechanics of the game industry and the software industry, so I know that really well. So being told how it works didn't help me. It didn't serve a purpose. And equally, for people who are watching this, you know what the Matrix is. You've seen the Matrix films. Don't assume that I haven't watched it, and also don't just tell me it and then show me it in a clip and then tell me, like, yeah, that's so and so taking it. Just it was so obvious that I just felt like that could have, it would have been a better film if they'd have just gone in saying, right, if you're watching this, you need to know what you're coming into, because we haven't got time to give you a whole act about what it's all about. And they would have had a better film with that. But anyway, that was it.
I think we could definitely talk about this film for a film that 3 out of 4 didn't really love that much. I think we could talk about it forever and a day, which there's something in there. So I'm gonna ask you a very quick fire question to wrap this up with a neat little bow. Would you like to see a sequel, yes or no, Alex?
No, I want a reboot. I don't want a sequel.
Okay. John?
Yes, I'd like to see a sequel where Neo and Trinity are evil machines.
Yeah, that was a stupid question to you. Mark?
I would, just to undo the damage of this terrible film. So yes.
Yeah, I am not interested, and I'm just going to watch the original forever. A prequel, though, what you said earlier, maybe a Rogue One style prequel might be quite interesting. But if they don't make any more, I wouldn't care. So there we go. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you haven't already, please do hit your subscribe button and be sure to give us a review if your podcast platform allows. You can find us on Twitter at PlayPaulsTurn, and you can find me on Twitter at It's Bobby Revilla. Alex?
I'm at Alex Hansford.
John?
At John PR. PR is my middle name. Evans.
And Mark is not on Twitter and social media, but you might find him on Match.com if you type in the right criteria and description of a middle-aged man who loves Spider-Man more than he loves Captain America, possibly.
If you type in ex-convict and loser and the worst person to ever you think of meeting, you might find him.
You will not find Mark, because he is none of those things. He's absolutely lovely. We love him to bits. He's our big cuddly teddy bear that doesn't know how to use an iPhone. You can also find the show.
I think he's massively overrated, personally.
You can also find this show. This has probably been our longest episode. You can also find the show at the website, which is playpaulsturn.show. This has been Play Paul's Turn. Thank you for listening. Ooh.
Ah.